thought we'd go live and just give you our opinions on whether this Tab Ultra C, which has been released recently, is anything keeping up with it in the market today. It's me, I'm Kit, and this is Khalid. And Khalid is someone who's been writing about e-ink for a long time. And although we're going to talk about Tab Ultra C for a little while today, and we're really interested to see any comments that you have, we're aware we're just absolutely just popping up here, but we're also planning a longer live stream that we want to promote to you on Thursday the 18th at about 8:30. We've had one or two technical issues. Let us know please in the chat that you're actually hearing us loud and clear. Yeah, hello Thomas. We've got somebody at least hearing. And is everything going okay your end, Khalid?
Yeah, it looks good. I think the stream on my channel isn't working, but I will figure it out afterwards.
We're hoping that we're going to be live on both our channels next Thursday, the 18th, and we will get it figured. It sounds good. Everything's going well. Good news, right? So one thing that I wanted to do, well, Khalid, tell us your thoughts and your comments on what you've seen and heard about the Tab Ultra C so far.
So I actually haven't gotten mine yet. It's still on the way, but I have heard only good things. Everybody who's gotten it is pretty happy with the advantage of having colors and the higher resolution display. So that's
you've got the Tab Ultra itself there.
Yes. So that's my my regular Tab Ultra in black and white with the regular ink.
You've got the Tab Ultra and you've enjoyed that so far.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to comment. I want to cover some common comments and common questions that people have so far with the Tab Ultra C, because well, I just thought I'd pop up and haven't been able to make enough content really on this recently. So I want to just go through a couple of things that people have asked quite a lot. A lot of people asking whether they should upgrade from the Note Air 2 or the Note Air 2 Plus. The short answer is no. If you're happy with that device, it's only a year old. It was brilliant a year ago. It was my favorite e-ink tablet a year ago, my sort of #1 pick. And if it's still doing what you want it to do, then you don't need to upgrade to this. I would say that device is still, really top dog for reading and note taking. It's still doing better in terms of its battery life, it would seem. But if you're frustrated by the way that certain apps look and perform, then yeah, maybe go for it. Maybe go for either of these two devices, the Tab Ultra C or the Tab Ultra itself. And if you're thinking that you want tilt with the pen for drawing, or if you're thinking you want the keyboard, then yeah, then definitely go ahead and upgrade. But you don't need to. This is not made every other amazing e-ink tablet absolutely obsolete so far. Yeah, there you are. It's great. And one thing that people also say is they don't like the sharp edges of the Tab Ultra. It's not something that particularly bothers me in daily use, but they're saying that quite a lot. And actually, so if you're holding your device, it's still a bit lighter, it's still a bit thinner. There's still a lot of advantages to that. Anything to add to that question?
Sorry.
Anything else to add to that? Anything else to add to that question? Should you?
No, I absolutely agree. I think the sharp edges are one of the main disadvantages of the Tab Ultra, of the one I have here. I think it's exactly the same with the Tab Ultra C. And actually, the weight is also one of my complaints. It's pretty heavy with I think around 500 grams. And the Boox Note Air 2 Plus is actually lighter. I think 50 grams lighter. And
like I said, it's still the better notebook replacement, isn't it? It's still the better book reader. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this one is something else that is still that bit better on the Tab Ultra. Sorry, on the Note Air 2 compared to the Tab Ultra. But what's the screen feel like? And people are asking that all the time. it's not as good. The Tab Ultra screen feel is not as good as the Note Air 2 Plus, or indeed the Remarkable or the Scribe, I would say. But I've heard some people say that it's like an iPad. It's not. It isn't like it isn't like a sheet of glass. It is still a textured feeling. But it's a much more subtly textured, I'd say. This is,
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. Like a micro. You can probably hear it if I put it up to there. It's
Yeah.
not. It's just almost like whatever texture's on there is finer and it's coarser on the Note Air 2 Plus. I don't know if you can do that to a microphone on your Note Air 2 Plus there, and just see
yeah, that's actually a third-party screen protector, because I pulled mine off, so that's actually not the original one. So
yeah, but that might be a reason. It's a reason to maybe stick with it if you like it. It's also, you can do what Khaled's done. You can just put a third-party screen protector on if you want a more rough screen feel. I would also say a rougher screen feel, though, will wear out your nibs a bit quicker. So you've got to
exactly.
think about that as well.
I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, but it is soft. It is pleasant. It is comfortable to write upon, and so I wouldn't kick either of them out of bed for their screen feel, and neither of them feel like the Apple Pencil on the iPad with that horrible tap 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 feeling. It's not good. And then people are asking, what's the battery life? It's interesting. These devices, they seem to run hot, don't they, Khaled? They seem like it's either this GPU, or you might mention something about that later, but they seem to be running. They're certainly overclocking whatever processors are in there, because they seem to be running hot, and I think that is what is impacting the battery life. It is the battery life on the Note Air 2 Plus is better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even though the battery is much smaller.
They've had to increase that battery size to compensate, and the Note Air 2 Plus has the bigger battery than the Note Air 2. So, and the Note Air 2 battery life was fabulous already. So, you don't need to, if you're sitting enjoying a Note Air 2 Plus or a Note Air 2 itself, or even a Note Air, or even a Ian Greeter, if it's still doing what you want it to do, if you're not frustrated at the way the apps work, if you don't need color, then you don't need to upgrade right now. Just enjoy where it's going, I think, is what a lot of comments are saying. Keep an eye on these things and enjoy where they're going. Books are going to do this. They are going to release in cycles, and every iteration gets a little bit better, but don't feel like you have to discard what you already have. And this is like, does X app work? So I get asked, like, how does any other app work? And lots of people obviously asking for certain apps by name. I would say what I'm noticing is if it uses like touch and keyboard input, then it's working fine. If it uses the pen input, then probably it's not going to be working well, unless it's a Boox app, or they've done quite a good job on Evernote and OneNote. I think they've been specifically asked for those things. It doesn't have a choice like the Bigme does of a global handwriting input, although that is quite flawed as well, and that is just a workaround. So don't feel that like it's don't think of your favorite note-taking app. For instance, I was asked to try Flexo on I'm going to solo this layout for a little while on my first live stream here, and you can see that the pen input just always lags that bit behind the pen. It's not totally, well, it's not even managing to stick with the writing every single time I lift it. Look, so it isn't going to be a perfect experience with just any app that is designed for an LCD or an OLED screen. However, a third-party app that you can type into, like for instance Google Docs. I wonder if the if the one we're actually working on right now is here. This works just fine, and this works really, really well. This works, really quite good, and in fact, typing into it is a good, solid experience, and it works quite well with the Boox keyboard itself and doing handwriting input, etc. So it depends. Basically, if you're asking if a third-party app works well, then the question is, does it require the handwriting input? Because it probably won't. But if it is just for type or touch, then it's probably going to work just fine. Okay, hope that answers that one. Anything to add there? Again, they worked quite well on the previous generations as well in general,
Yeah.
didn't they?
Again, I absolutely agree. With most of the third-party apps, you get that bit of lag, and with some, it works, like I said, without any additional lag. But
And then
yeah, nothing to add.
lastly, should you buy? I get asked this quite a lot. Should you buy the Boox Tab Ultra C or the Boox Tab X? Very, very good question. It's a tricky one. This is a really hard choice, and I've been umming and erring when I make another top 5, or even I might make a top 10 just to fit in more tablets in the next one. But I think what's going to be top of my list is going to be between these two, almost certainly. It's a really hard choice. I think for me, the device with color and a keyboard, it is going to win that. I think but the Tab X is absolutely brilliant. If you want, the problem is if you want to use it with a keyboard, then you're going to have to carry a Bluetooth keyboard. You're going to have to also carry a stand of some sort, or use the case to stand it up as you type. So the Boox Tab Ultra C is going to be better for carrying your bag and using as your emailer on the go, for instance, which is one use I love about the Tab Ultra. But if you want to leave it set up on your desk, though, that's absolutely fabulous. Or if you don't need the keyboard input, then that's fine. For sheer size and for split screen mode, if you want to work between several apps, that Tab X is absolutely the best you can get right now, I think. If you want to use it with Space Desk, which is something I've been actually looking at using with the Tab Ultra today as well, this works really well. I don't know if you've discovered this, and you get you can connect to a desktop just like that. This is now connected to my computer, and it should go into ultra fast. You can perhaps see the mouse on there. I have to go back up and solo this layout. There's my one of my photos on the background. Where is it? The mouse, you can see, works just fine, and you can you can use all your Windows apps on this Space Desk mode there. That works well with both. It works fine with the color here. What a great use case that is. Somebody set the alarm in my house, so apologies for the beep. This is the fun of doing live streams, Khaled.
Yeah, everything. I already noticed.
And we were setting up, and I told Khaled there will be technical issues. Khaled's cameras didn't work, and then my internet went down. So.
Yeah, it's actually my first time, and it's interesting.
Yeah, it's
interesting to set up everything.
I haven't had the chance to look much in the chat yet, so this is going to be good to look into the chat and answer any questions there as well. We can pull them up in a minute. So do ask any questions in there. We're not planning on spending a lot of time here today, but whilst you're here, we are going to be back for a longer live stream on Thursday, the 18th, and we're going to talk then. We're going to actually side by side the Kobo Lipsa 2E and the Kindle Scribe for you. So that's going to be an interesting comparison if you're looking at either of those two devices. So yeah, back to Boox Ultra or the Tab X, and which one should you buy if you're buying one right now? Really tricky choice. The ultra fast works really good. Using that Space Desk there, actually it's usable even on balance mode, and you can type into it, and the Space Desk actually communicates the keyboard input to the computer, and also the pen input and the touch input works as well. So it's really quite good that you could actually be using your big computer in your desktop in your study or office or space or whatever, and you could be sitting still operating that computer from Space Desk on your e-ink tablet on the sofa. So there's great use cases there. And then this is the last question I'm getting asked quite a lot. Will there be a Tab X C? Will there be a Tab X Ultra C? That imagine a 13.3 with Kaleido 3 screen with a keyboard case as well. I think that's what people maybe are thinking. Maybe you should wait a year or so to do that. If that is going to happen, and I have no information, by the way, I wouldn't put it past Boox to do that. And they don't share things with us before they're ready to give us that. We get a bit of lead time sometimes with the news like that, but not like very much in advance. And what they are careful to do is to give at least sort of half a year in between launches whereby one will supersede directly another. So my advice to you is if you're watching books and thinking I want a Boox tablet, my advice to you might be to buy quite early in the cycle so you get the longest time of actually having the newest one and the latest one and enjoying that, knowing that you've got the top of the range product before. I do understand that frustration of you just bought maybe the Tab Ultra and then the Tab Ultra C comes out and it's quite a kind of bombshell kind of drop. That is something to that you don't. If you've got the Tab Ultra, it's still absolutely fantastic. Don't think that's how dare they release something better than mine that I've only just bought. But if you want to be a discerning kind of consumer, it's important to monitor and watch our reviews and think about what's just come out and think, actually, if I've been waiting for a device that is right and that one seems right, then you might as well get into it early on in the cycle, or accept that there's going to be something that will supersede it and then you'll get a discount on that one. And that is the way, I think, to appreciate where they're going with the text. So that's the kind of common questions that I've had so far. I mean, we also want to cover and talk about what is the where color e-ink is going, and you've certainly had your eyes on this for longer than I have. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I actually have two devices right here from Pocketbook. The Pocketbook Color and the Pocketbook Inkpad Color. And both are good in terms of color saturation. I'd say it's pretty much the same with the second generation and the Boox Tab C. But the main problem I see with those devices is that 100 ppi RGB layer resolution. So I think that's something the Boox Tab Ultra C is really interesting to have. So
yeah, absolutely. So this is a 150 color, 150 DPI color layer, and a 300 DPI black and white layer. Whereas the previous, is that Kaleido 2 then that you've got there?
Yeah, that's actually the first generation. That's the second generation, and I think there is a third one, the Kaleido Plus, which is in the Boox Air C.
That's right. Yeah.
Nova Air C. So, and you can see with the first generation. I'm not sure if let me get it. Yeah, exactly. There's some color shifting when looking at steeper angles. So that's quite annoying. I'm not sure if you can see it. And that's actually not a problem anymore with the second generation. So I will get rid of the Boox Tab Ultra here. And that's not a problem with the second generation. So that's actually quite an improvement because the RGB layer sits directly on top and much closer to the e-ink screen. And the way that works is that the ink is darkened under the individual RGB subpixels to render the color. The main problem I see with the 150 ppi, with the 100 ppi screen is that you can't actually see the RGB layer anytime you're looking at the screen, even if it's just black and white. So there's no way to turn off the RGB layer, and you always see those tiny little dots of the 100 ppi screen. So that's why I'm not why I
wonder
wasn't
if there's
impressed.
any kind of that.
Yeah. Well, let me see if I can show that.
I wonder if there's any of that color shift when I do this with the. It's doing its auto rotate a bit there. There we are. I don't think there is. Not that I can really see.
No, I think it looks good. I think they figured it out with the second generation.
Yeah.
So
it looks good, right?
It
is very thin as well. There's one thing I noticed. It is very close to the top surface. I think it's got on-cell, they call it, don't they, where the touch layer is knitted into the actual e-ink screen. And so it's even compared to the Ultra, it is even. It seems to be the distance from top layer to the actual e-ink screen seems to be less, which is quite impressive. Yeah, it's good. There's one thing actually I must say. Sorry, Karen.
So is it actually the same surface material as with the Boox Tab Ultra, or is it different?
I think it's slightly different. Yeah, I think it. Well, I think the surface. No, yeah, the very top surface is the same. Which top surface must be the Wacom layer, but the touch layer, the capacitive layer, is actually as part of the e-ink screen rather than having a touch layer on top. So I think that the Tab Ultra has to go e-ink screen, touch layer, Wacom layer. Whereas this just and there's also the light reflective layer in there somewhere as well, perhaps within the e-ink screen. But this just goes e-ink screen including touch layer, then Wacom layer. So it's slightly thinner, there, and it is noticeable. I can see that in the corners. It's not something that it's not the Tab Ultra is not something you're thinking, wow, there's terribly low down, lots of thickness into that screen, but this you can see there's a slight difference there. It's an interesting one. I showed this to my father-in-law actually, who's user of e-ink screens and ebook reader for a long time, and he said straight away, he says that I would find that hard to read on, to focus on, and that I think is because the contrast isn't so good between the text and the actual white areas, and I think it's because if you do get in and you look really, really closely, you can see that 150. Sorry, it keeps doing its auto rotate. You can see that that layer there. It's hard to show it on camera, and it will be even worse through the internet with a live stream. But if you go onto my, but it's called something like Screen Demos is a Vibe or something like that. And it's just pretty much a compilation of some macro shots that I've done there. You can kind of see that when you're viewing it. Although the text looks sharp, the black and white part of the 300 DPI does look sharp. It is actually a different experience. And I showed him side by side with the previous Ultra, and he said, yeah, no, I would definitely find that more comfortable. Maybe it's, he said maybe he wasn't wearing his glasses at that point that he would normally use for reading, but, and so I'm going to do a couple of little demos of that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agreed. So let me show this one. This is 100 PPI, and I think with this one you can see it.
You can really see that in there. Look,
on the stream as well.
Yeah. So it's a big improvement.
This layer on top of the e-ink screen, and it actually worsens the e-ink readability itself.
Yeah. So I do think this is a step in the right direction, and some if you're really you need color, then this is the thing to go for. But if you're a pure reader, it's there are still some drawbacks, there are still some trade-offs. I think you got one more e-ink screen to show you, and guys, anyone who can recognize what image this is from will be impressed.
So let me bring this closer.
Yeah,
closer to the
looks great. Come on, in the comments, you tell us, what is this a still from?
Anyone know?
Anyone know?
Okay, so this one is actually
tell us on the screen.
That's actually a 7-inch. Sorry, it's a 5.6-inch 7-color e-ink screen without an RGB layer. It's actually the e-ink particles inside the screen.
Got it.
Yeah, Mark, that's correct. Absolutely.
Is that though? Is that a still from the game of my that I played in the late 90s or early 2000s or whatever? Or is there a more recent version of this game?
Yeah, that's the special edition. That I'm not sure when it was released, but the special edition got some enhancements with graphics, and I think it got better sounds as well.
Yeah.
But that's actually a pretty nice screen. It takes ages to refresh, so it takes, I think, around 7 to 10 seconds to refresh that image. So nothing you'd use on. Yeah, exactly. It's the second part. So that's nothing you'd use on a tablet, on an ink tablet. But I built this custom picture frame with a Raspberry Pi, and this picture frame I ordered from the internet. And that's actually self-sufficient. So I can change images when it's done. So I haven't actually set it up for the images to update automatically now. But it's actually pretty nice because one of the main drawbacks of digital image frames or picture frames is actually that you always have to have them plugged in. And this one, you can just change the picture, put it on your desk, and have the same picture. And if you get tired of the picture, just change it. So I think that's pretty nice. Pretty nice.
It looks really good.
It
looks really good.
Yeah.
So just this is actual sort of e-ink capsules. There are 7 different colors of e-ink capsule, whereas this is the Kaleido screen actually has the subpixel layer is actually some colors which are permanently there, which are getting covered up or exposed by LCD. So actually the black and white is still doing the traditional e-ink, bringing black pixels up, black pigment up to the surface, or pushing it away from the surface to make a black or to make a white. But the color is being made by, so we use EM fields to make some pixels line up and either block the light, or some crystals line up and either block the light or let it through. So that's really interesting. So I think that looks, incredible, that color. And the gallery free screen is the other option. The gallery has C, M, Y, and K pixels, which are pigment in there, which are like actual e-ink capsules. So bringing up a cyan, bringing up a magenta or a yellow or a black, and that's the options there. But again, that takes longer to refresh. So is it going to be the best thing soon for any kind of e-ink tablet? That's an interesting question. I don't know. That's the way printing works, CMYK. So will it ever get to 20 milliseconds latency? Perhaps not, And really, this thing for me at the moment, what I'm loving Tab Ultra for, and now the Tab Ultra C, is I'm loving it for office apps. Today, emailing Khaled to get this all set up. I was emailing him from Spark app here with this keyboard. It's a great break from looking at the LCD screen, working down here on the e-ink tablet. And you can see I've got my work profile apps here as well, the ones with the little badge here. I don't know if you can just about see those. And that means I've got it signed into my school account for this email, whereas I have my Outlook here for one of my email accounts to do with this YouTube channel. And I've got my Gmail here, and so I'm doing, and I've got my X-Tiles for all of my notes and things for my videos. Basically, this is the reason to get into that. Somebody asked if Excel was working okay. That's one of the questions here. Yeah, it works great. I actually haven't booted it on the Ultra C yet, but I have booted it on the Ultra, and it works just fine on there. And I think that these are the things that are really enhanced by having that color layer, and where you don't miss the color accuracy, but the color is nice to see the difference between different buttons, or maybe you want to color code cells. This is something we do all the time in teaching, is go red means below target and green means exceeding on their targets and stuff like that. It's this kind of constant thing, and it works just fine, and this is, I can do all my cells.
I think that's sorry. I think you brought up a good point on color saturation. Obviously, when looking at those screens, those colors aren't saturated as on your computer or regular tablet screen. But I never found that to be an issue. When switching to one of those screens, you just don't look at other screens, and by itself, it's fine. Just in direct comparison, they look a bit muted, the colors look a bit muted and not as saturated, but by itself, it's totally fine. So I never had an issue with using a screen like this and thinking colors aren't looking nice. It's the same with, I think it's the same with ink itself. We're looking at a regular black and white ink screen. The background is gray. It's not white, and you just forget it when using it. I think it's the same with the color rendition on the Kaleido screens. So I never had an issue with that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think the question we sort of started here, is it going to, when we were planning this, is it going to take over, is this Tab Ultra C going to take over absolutely everything? And the answer is, well, no. And we talked about the Note Air 2 Plus, it's still that device for reading. There is no particular reason, I think, for a pocket-sized Kindle or other e-reader to need color at this point. If you're just reading a sort of normal sized book on there, then these things do, you don't need color for that necessarily. But is this perhaps a different category of device? That's a question we're wondering. Is this what people really want? There was a really interesting comment on my earlier ones, which said, is this actually now books getting into competition with the iPad? And that's a competition they can't really win because the iPad is everywhere, and it is great. The iPad, I'm a big fan, although I use this far more than the iPad. I do, because I can't use that iPad for the length of time without feeling that I need a screen break that I can with this. And having this now that I can run all the Android apps that I want to professionally. It's not a place to watch videos, of course. I don't want that. I've got a big screen TV on the wall through there. So this is, for me, for what it is now, it is objectively better than anything with an LCD screen. However, if Amazon are now making big screen tablets, so big e-ink tablets, maybe Apple might get there, especially when they see people enjoying, and there's a big demand for this color for running apps, then that all of a sudden Apple maybe have a interest in doing that. I don't know. Do you think we'll ever see an e-ink iPad?
Yeah, interesting question, because actually, Huawei and Lenovo joined the e-ink race and released. So the Huawei MatePad paper was released roughly a year ago, I think, and the Lenovo Smart paper actually didn't hit the shelves yet. No. But those are big manufacturers, and I can imagine Apple takes note what's happening. If they enter the e-ink market, I can imagine they will limit the apps you can run on that particular device. They will limit it for it to run perfectly on that device.
Whereas books have just allowed you to download anything on there.
Yeah.
But I think that's a very, very good point. They wouldn't be satisfied, would they? And that's an interesting point, because it seems like Lenovo and Huawei have gone for a kind of limited, almost a Remarkable-esque, and certainly Amazon have gone for a Remarkable rival rather than a Boox rival. So it's very interesting that Boox are kind of, they're pushing this productivity arm of their devices. Yeah, cool. Should we have a look through some questions, and then we'll just remind you all that we'll be back again with a comparison of Thursday the 18th, hopefully on both channels. We're going to compare the Kindle Scribe and the Kobo Ellipsa. We're going to get this technical thing sorted out, no worries. Let's just fire through from the top, if that's all right. Writing feel compared to the Supernote. It's different to the Supernote. I almost feel like that's the way to describe how it feels, actually, is it's kind of like the Supernote is like soft and squidgy like a gel pen. The Note Air 2 Plus is like scratchy like a pencil, and Remarkable is like scratchy like a pencil, and Doodaroo is like writing on sandpaper, ultra scratchiness going on there, and they're all good, they're all valid preferences, I think, and this is kind of like in between that Supernote and that Note Air 2 Plus. I think that screen feel. Interesting. Why does the Ultra blink while watching video? Is it a matter of the e-ink panel, the processor, or the software? Yeah, there is a kind of like if you're on anything that is live kind of updating, which is expecting to sort of, I guess, flash like an LCD, you do get this blinking of some of the pixels. I don't think that's a major issue. And somebody said, hang on a minute, if it's flashing at me, that's exactly what I don't like about a LCD screen. But remember, an LCD is actually an LED flashing light directly at you, whereas this is just a contrast changing, essentially. on something that's reflecting light. So it's not like you're having to squint to block out that horrible flicker. It is just more like, just a weird. I don't know. Have you got any more thoughts on that one, Khaled?
Yeah, I think one of the main issues with LCDs are that you have PWM, which is the flickering you don't consciously see actually for most part. You can make it visible with a smartphone camera, for example. I think that's the main issue people are having with LCDs. So they're looking at a screen, it's flickering faster than you actually consciously see, but it's there and it's causing strain, eye strain. So I think that's something that doesn't happen with an ink screen, but I do agree that it can be a bit annoying if you're watching a video on the Boox Tab Ultra. But personally, I never had an issue with it. I think it looks okay for e-ink. It actually more than okay. It looks amazing for e-ink.
Yeah, I only really see it on certain websites. I think websites that have colored backgrounds. I see a little flicker in the background.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it does change. It is the refresh frequency, because it's a faster flicker on ultra fast than it is on fast, for instance. But again, it's not, it's not bad. It doesn't cause you eye strain or anything. Yeah. So we did the Excel one. How is reading and word processing? Is the display too dark to be usable? No, it's not too dark to be usable. I think you made that point. You just get used to that. It isn't got the main contrast. You do tend to run the lights higher, but remember they are front lights. Yeah, sorry. I'll spotlight that one if you want. Is that with the lights off, is it?
Yeah, that's actually the light off. And just for comparison, this is the Boox Tab Ultra, and you can see the difference quite easily. And that's actually one of my main complaints when using this older one, especially, that it's dark without the light. But using it outside in the sun, it actually looks amazing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. And it is the case. This is still darker than a black and white panel. However, it is now less dark than the Kaleido 2 was. So it has got better, and it does. Yeah, absolutely. It just depends on the ambient light there, really. Yeah, if you're looking outside, the colors look great. The contrast looks absolutely great, and the 300 dpi black and white means that the text is not, everything's nice and crisp. It's good. Cool. Hello from Russia. Could you please tell me what you think about Huawei MatePad paper, and would you prefer to buy than Huawei? I've not tried the Huawei. Have you tried the Huawei? Just for reading.
Yeah, I have it here. Let me see if I have it. I have it here with me. Let me see. There it is. Yeah, I have used it for some time. What's really nice about this one is that it's very lightweight. So I think the official weight is 360 grams. My kitchen scale shows 370 grams, but it's still lighter than most of the other devices in that size segment. And the main issue I had with it is that it's running Android or AOSP. So the Android open source project, and it doesn't have Google Play Store installed, and not the same apps. You can't run the same apps basically than on the Boox Tab Ultra or Boox Note Air 2 Plus.
Yeah,
and it's harder to expand usability, because you can't actually use another launcher, for example. So you're stuck with the Huawei launcher, which is a shame, because there are some limitations to it that aren't great, in my opinion. But the hardware, I think they nailed the hardware. I think on the software side, they could enhance quite a lot, but the hardware is one of the best I have seen so far.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was a bit surprised they didn't go out all guns and blazing when they joined the ink tablet world, to be honest, and go for something color. And yeah, I think you're stuck with Harmony with it not allowing it to do Android apps. That's just the way it is with geopolitical things, isn't it?
And maybe one more thing, that pen is actually an active pen. That's not a passive Wacom pen, like with most other eNote devices. But it charges automatically when you put it on the device, so that's at least you don't have to think about it when putting it back on there.
Oh, there's an interesting I'll talk about more about styluses. There's some good news I think coming for stylus tech in the future. First time buyer looking at Air 2 Plus and Ultra C, or somebody looking forward to Ultra C being available in the UK. I wonder if this is the only Ultra C in the UK at the minute. No, I think they are. I think but demand's been quite high for these devices, so that's interesting, and you can see why. You can see why. So whether I don't think the UK is the biggest market for books, but I think they're getting more popular everywhere, aren't they? Air 2 Plus versus Ultra C. If you didn't see right at the top, Brian, then we did discuss that in a bit of detail. I don't plan on replacing my notebook computer. Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is what you have to say is that this you can viably, there's lots of use cases where you could take this without taking your laptop, but I do think that an e-ink tablet traditionally just works well by sitting next to your your original keyboard, and you can just sort of go from there. Really, I do think that is an important thing to say. An e-ink tablet has just worked so well next door to your keyboard, really, and it's just a great place to keep your notes. You don't have to sort of use so much paper, so many paper notebooks. You don't have to forget where they are. It can key in with all the apps that you use and all the cloud spaces that you store your things. So there's so many reasons to do it. Cool. Anything else to add on that one just at this point?
No, I personally would most of the time would recommend the Boox Note Air 2 Plus for just taking notes. I think because it's just nicer in the hand, I think, than
and it's £200, pretty much less expensive, isn't it, as well? So
exactly.
Yeah. Cool. We've done Monkey Island bits. Would I still recommend the Supernote? Yes, absolutely. If it's right for you. If you love stationery and you want beautiful pens, then definitely, because they're stationery. The pens are absolutely great. This is the Heart Metal pen. It's a wonderful thing. It just feels more like a notebook. If you're a writer as well, the automatic handwriting recognition in the background is great. Yes, absolutely. It's a interesting one because they're not cheap. We'll say that straight out of the bat. And if you want apps, then it's a no-go. So if you productivity, then no. For me, it's got a firm place in my kind of lists of what I would recommend. For me, I'm getting used to using, as I've said on this slide stream already, the work profile apps. That this is my emailer on my desk now as well, and I get that break from my LCD screen. If I'm a teacher, but I'm also a leader in schools, and so I don't spend all my time facing classrooms. I spend a lot of my time working on things, especially working on resources, especially communicating. So these allow me to do those a bit more smoothly. But yes, if you love writing in long form, if you think in words, then it's a brilliant device. It's not the best sketcher. It's still, and what I love about their device is that they really think about every single part of it. All the things they bring into that onto that device, they're aimed at people who write, and they're aimed at a very certain type of professional, I think. And yeah, they're great. I think they're fantastic. I'm just looking forward to seeing their journey continue, and I'm glad. I think it's one of those success stories really where they work in a way that is admirable in terms of their customer service, in terms of the way they communicate, the way they share their journey on social media, and share their update paths and things like that. I just want them to succeed, and I'm sure they will. Yeah. Anything on Supernote, mate? You got one? You tried one?
No, I actually that's one of the few ones I haven't gotten, because it's, like you said, it's pretty pricey, especially when getting it to Europe. It was too expensive, and I think the next generation is already in the works, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and again they've published that, so there you go. So it's somebody at Denver says you can eliminate some of the flashing by entering e-ink center, select more settings, and have a value of 8 or more. So e-ink center is here. more settings. I'm not seeing that in this bit, but is it from the top? Swipe down. Just takes me to the same point, doesn't it? So I'm not sure where that is, an eight or more, but
I
oh,
think
there,
it's in
more
the
settings. Yeah,
app
yeah.
setting.
Anti-flicker. So mine's on 10. So there we are. It's something to be honest, I haven't noticed much on the Ultra C, so maybe they've learned from that and they set that as a standard setting. Right, the value of the Tab Ultra C versus iPad Pro. I get the E in factor, but is there any other value? I think it's just like, I'll tell you what it is. Like, my iPad like stays there until I've got a specific thing pretty much that I want to on the go do photo editing. That's pretty much the time when my iPad comes out now. I did love it at work when I used it at work, but that was before I'd ever used a Boox tablet. And I loved it because I could plug it into the screen and I could sit and I could annotate the things. And I loved, and this was during COVID where I was doing a lot more lecture style teaching. And I could also stream that iPad directly to the internet for people at home. So, there was all this hybrid teaching going on, and it was great for that. However, now I could do all of that on this device or the Tab X. And so there's far more times where I'm like, I will look for a reason to use this device rather than the iPad. I don't look for reasons to use the iPad. I think to myself, will I take a laptop or will I take my iPad when I travel? And normally the iPad wins because it's smaller and lighter, but that's the only reason. So it's an interesting one. Any thoughts on that? Are you an iPad user, Khaled?
Yeah, I have one here as well, but it's actually not mine. But I think one great thing, or there are a couple of great things about an iPad Pro, but one of the mind-blowing things is the latency of the pen. I think it's 8 milliseconds with the iPad Pro. I think with the 12-inch version, and that's incredibly fast. So you, even when looking for the line running behind the pen, you have a hard time seeing it. So that's pretty amazing. And the app selection is actually pretty incredible too, especially for sketching and stuff like that. But
for artwork, yeah, it is great. Yeah,
but it's much heavier than
any of
Tab
these.
Ultra C.
And having they could really do so much with the iPad because it has the M2 chips and everything now.
Exactly.
It could just like a computer in its own right. It's crazy. And I think as soon as you can plug them into a screen and it'd be like you've got a Mac Mini basically with second screen and you can plug it into a screen. As soon as the OS sort of differences are reconciled, because you've got the same chip running a different OS and you can't run the apps on one, I think they could absolutely kill it. What are we talking about, Kit? But they are kind of killing, aren't they? But I think it is sort of game over for a lot of competitors if they really, for people who know computing, that they're like, well, I've got this amazing chip and I'm stuck on iOS apps rather than being able to run my full Mac apps. Will they bring a new Note Air device? Probably, yeah. I don't think they'll have given up on the Note Air line. I don't think they do talk, like you should still, if you want note taking and you want reading, you should still go the Note Air line. So I think perhaps there will be a Note Air 3. Whether there'll be a Note Air 3C is another question. I think that I kind of get the feeling maybe e-ink aren't producing these in numbers that can meet the demand currently. I don't know whether that's maybe they're just feeling out the water, and they're certainly developing this technology quite quickly. So I think that probably we will see them limited to just a few different devices that can buy in large enough bulk to make it worth e-ink putting their investment into it, really. So it's a very interesting thing. Any thoughts on that? Will they have a Note Air 3C, do you reckon, Khaled?
So I think that I'm convinced there is another generation of the Note Air series because that one was a huge success for Boox, as far as I could tell. And I think there might be a 3C, but like you said, it's hard to say because the demand is pretty high, and And I think e-ink actually pushed back the production of e-ink Gallery 3 already, so that might be an issue as well with the Kaleido screens, or for the Kaleido screens. So I wouldn't wait for it, to be honest.
No. Cool. That's good answer. I think for now. How's the battery life we talked about at the top? Oh, I can show you what it thinks the battery life will be, if you like. Generally, we think, well, it does run quite hot, so you know, I charged this yesterday, and I'm almost it was fully charged at the start of the day yesterday, and I haven't been using it the entirety of the day. In the power center, I believe, where is it? Power here. It tells me it thinks it's going to last for 1 day, 1 hour and 32 minutes. So it thinks it's got, over 24 hours of battery life there. It's halfway through. That's kind of at current use. Obviously, that will last, I think, 2 more full days of working, normal use for professional setting. That'll probably last for another 2 days, I would say, from 64%. That's sort of where you're up to. You're sort of charging every three and a bit days at this point, I think, with this device, whereas you are getting a week and a half, I think, out of the Note Air 2 Plus.
Yeah, that's something you mentioned in the beginning. Even when looking at static content on the Boox Tab Ultra, Boox Tab Ultra C screen, it's just eating battery much faster than Boox Note Air 2 Plus.
Yeah. Would it make sense to get a reflective LCD screen? Yeah, I'm going to do a full review of that one soon, the iMu S1. Done a comparison of e-ink versus reflective LCD. There are some benefits. Wait for the full review, I think, on that one. Yes, that's a technology that's interesting. Is it an alternative to e-ink? I actually don't think it is an alternative to e-ink. I think it's a nice alternative screen, but I don't think it's not. Every e-reader isn't going to switch to reflective LCD, I don't think. So we'll see on that. I hope that was just a nice way to say how much the international community supports the Ukraine without sort of singling out that individual from Russia. I hope it wasn't distracting as well, Code, when you were talking. Is the Tab Ultra C mature enough for migration from? Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think they're all ready, and that they haven't got to where they kind of wanted to get to as a laptop replacement. So given that for most people, I think you're still running a computer and a tablet, I think it makes sense for me to have the tablet be an e-ink device. Gonna fire through these last ones, I think, because we're gonna call it a day. This is probably longer than before we chat. But if you enjoyed yourself, Khaled, you've your first live stream.
Absolutely.
Have you all enjoyed this? Let us know if you want to see more of these, please. Do fire in there any more questions. But I'm just going to fire quite quickly through these last ones. Haven't tried e-ink Gallery yet. Can't wait to, though. But I think that I think it's just a case that the screen just seems to have this funny yellow tint after refreshing. Khaled, you're going to tell us something about this one again?
Yeah. Just to add, I think so. Personally, I haven't tried Gallery 3 yet, but I will get it as soon as it's available. What I've heard is, and what I've said before, is that e-ink pushed back the production for those screens. So Pocketbook also announced a device called the Viva, which was announced for the first quarter of this year, and they pushed it back to the second half of the year. So I think they are working out a few problems, possibly in production and with the screens themselves. So I think what I've seen with other reviews is that people are saying the color green isn't looking great on those screens yet. And but what I can say about this one, and that's actually in principle the same technology with ink particles in the screen, with colored ink particles, is that it looks great. So that's actually a huge step forward from the RGB layer we are seeing. But like you mentioned, it's very, very slow to refresh this one. Gallery 3 is obviously faster and has different refresh modes, but still it's much slower than Tab Ultra Fast mode, which you can watch videos with, actually. But I think it will take some time until color ink is at that point.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope though. I mean, it's just that does look incredible. I can tell through the video that is really, it just looks like printed paper, doesn't it? It really does look good.
Yeah, it's absolutely great. I love it.
Yeah, awesome. So another one here, interesting one. Oh yeah, sorry. Tab Ultra C is not going to take over then with that terrible camera bump. The camera bump doesn't offend me as much as it does, I think, some people, but I know that people are angry about it. So fine. Yeah, they are right when they say it really doesn't need it. Like, it is almost like a cosmetic camera bump. It really is. And yeah, a magnetic case does mean that you do get interrupted with your stylus every now and then. Although the normal case, the keyboard case, has along where there is a magnet, along this ridge here, there is interruption to the actual stylus, so you do get the bump. You can see it whenever you're going across that. There is a little bump there. But the ordinary case without the keyboard doesn't do that. I think they just wanted to draw attention to this as a new feature, really, by printing Smart Scanner on it and doing that. But it just didn't really need to be an actual bump there. It's not, and it's to mark it out, I suppose. The Samsung Ultras of the world, which do have these big camera bumps, and they are necessary to give you the optical formula. This is a small camera that could be easily inserted. So yeah, I think maybe Boox will probably listen to the feedback on that one and just say, no, let's get rid. That's an interesting one. Somebody asked the Boox EU whether they a newer Tab XC, they weren't noticed about any such undertaking yet. And again, this is just a company developing things, playing cards close to their chest, really. Could it make a OneNote tutorial? Yeah, Stefan, what I'm thinking I might do in future, I'm enjoying making live streams like this, is I might just sit down and talk through some sort of, do a sort of focus on one device at a time and actually make some long content there. Is it like using on an ordinary computer? Is it a full experience? It is. If you've used an Android app, it's like that, and it works, but it does a funny thing where it does a kind of preview and then it prints into it. So you kind of there are limitations if you're trying to use the pen input. I don't know why it's not waking up into it today, but I do use it on the device. It kind of it does like a screen preview and then it sort of imprints it. So it feels like it's writing in real time, but then it prints into OneNote. So there is a workaround still with OneNote. It's not absolutely perfect. Integrating Tab Ultra into my workload loads. Yeah, absolutely. Upgrading to the Tab Ultra C. How easy to port over the notes, etc. Well, the notes come automatically. So if you sign into your Boox account, so there's two accounts to sign into, which is the Play Store and the Boox account. As soon as you've signed into the Boox account, then it brings all of your notes across from every other device. So you should see, fingers crossed this has worked, as long as you're signed onto the same server, yeah, you'll see every single one of my Boox devices has all these same notes, including drawings that my cousin, or a tractor drawing that I made for my son once, I don't know, this type of thing. And they're all there. They're all synced up through the thing. It doesn't sync up your PDFs. I kind of wish it would. So there are some things that do sync kind of automatically. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward thing to go across. I was thinking that Boox don't do when you get a new Android device and you log into Google, it automatically says to you, would you like to bring all your apps from your phone? Or would you like to bring all your apps from a different Android tablet? And it doesn't do that. So you have to go and reload and re-sign into all your apps, which I think Boox could probably do something with that. Cool. This is us. Niche production, just like any other e-ink device. Yeah, iPads have that same problem with that. Cool. Okay. So thank you very much for spending the time with us. We will see you again on the Thursday, the 28th of this month. Yeah, at around about 8:30 UK time. Hope that works. We're going to talk about the Kobo Ellipsa 2E. I'm really looking forward to. Khaled's reviewed this and it's in production. It's coming soon. Yes.
Yes, should be up on the weekend.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. I must say I'm enjoying reading on it, and we're going to compare that to the Kindle Scribe. We'll do this in the same sort of way. So I hope you like this format. I hope you any feedback, very, very warmly welcome in the comments, and thank you very much for spending your time with us. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks. Bye.